Now, you've broken it down to the most essential difference. North, south. You have an industrial society on one side, and then you have an agricultural society on the other. Okay? Very good. There's many different innovations that go into this industry. First of all, what is industrial?
Factories.
Factories. Okay? So things in the north are produced in factories versus what?
Slaves.
Okay. So the main source of labor in the south is going to be slave labor. And then we cannot forget poor whites. And then the main source of labor in the north are poor whites. So it's a labor force. Okay. But in order for there to be industry in the north, what has to happen first?
Innovations like the telegraph.
Well, what's the general kind of innovation in the world that makes industry possible? Yeah, good. So, and where does that happen? Good, England, in the late 1700s, Industrial Revolution. The most essential understanding is is production shifts from two machines from. People are making things how before machines are? By hand, in workshops, right? Industrial Revolution, people are making things with machines and factories. Okay? So poor whites, where are they working?
Factories.
Okay. Factories. And then here, plantations or small farms. Now, shifting our attention back to the Industrial Revolution. There's going to be a lot of specific innovations that occur as a result. Okay? Question: what improvements in transportation developed in the 19th century? And this actually hits close to home because my home city basically develops and becomes one of the biggest cities in the 1900s of the 20th century because of a specific innovation that's depicted in this image. Yes? Yeah. Nicole? Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cassafont.
The boats and the
Well,
canals.
Okay. But guys, are you familiar with what the steamboat looks like?
Yes.
Okay, does this look like a steamboat?
No.
Okay, so let's go back. We're going to talk about steamboats eventually. What is that?
The horses are pulling out.
Yeah, car.
Okay, but what's this?
Water.
It's a canal. What's a canal?
Waterway.
Okay. A water road. Do you have a canal here in Costa Rica?
No.
Yes, well, like for tourism,
Not for tourism, it's for.
Okay. Guys, before steam power, and we'll talk about steam power in a couple of minutes, this is probably the most effective way to bring goods from one place to another, right? By water. Canals, is, like you said, are essentially roads of water. And you can see here, this barge, that's what they call these. They still call these things barges. It's being dragged by horses or sometimes oxen, right? The most famous canal, guys, they start in 1817 and finish in 1825, is the Erie Canal. It essentially connects the Atlantic Ocean with the interior of the United States. This is my city right here, Buffalo, right? Now it's kind of an industrial graveyard, but like I said, it was a very prosperous city, and the reason for this prosperity, in large part, is because of the canal. So you could bring all types of goods to New York Harbor here, take the Hudson River up to Albany, Troy, Waterford, and then go west on this canal. They started in 1817, they finish it in 1825. It's the most successful canal in the history of the United States, next to the Panama Canal, which is much more successful because it connects two oceans. But this has a huge impact, guys, on connecting the eastern seaboard with the central part of the United States. So at that point would be the western part of the United States. because we haven't expanded all the way out to Pacific Ocean. Here's a map, these blue lines with a kind of hash through them. These are all the canals that were built in the United States. Most of them are concentrated in the Northeast. Okay, there are some in the South. Most of them are concentrated in the Northeast. Huh?
500 canals says.
Oh, on the map, okay. But the canal era is 1825 to 1860. People that want to invest money and make a fortune, because you have to pay to use these, right? It's like you've heard of a toll road. Yeah, you have them. If you guys go to Hako, you have to drive through about 5 tolls if you take the main road, the fastest road. It's a toll road. It'd be the same thing with the canal. So if you were an investor, right, you would want to maybe invest money in the development of one of these, because anytime someone uses it, you're going to get a chunk of change. Just like any time a boat goes through Panama Canal, Panama gets a little bit of money. Not a little bit. I mean, they get a lot of money. You see, we've talked about Panama City. I mean, it's quite an incredible place. Eventually, a new technological innovation is going to be developed that's going to supersede canals by the kind of 1860s. What is it?
The railroad.
Both the steamboat and the railroad. And I like these images because both of them portray both things, right? But essentially, guys, it's steam power, right? Steam power has been around actually since the late 1700s, but it's kind of continued to perfect. It's continually perfected until they can use it for mass transportation and mass trade. Okay? Do you know how it works?
They burn coal and water heats up.
Like the time it moves the thing and
Okay, so they burn coal, it heats water, and then the water creates steam, right? Right? That creates pressure, and evaporates, it creates pressure, and then spins these turbines that creates motion and creates energy. The nuclear reactors actually do the same thing, but a lot hotter, obviously. Okay? But this changes everything, right? Canals are kind of passé at this point, right? They're not needed. Steamboats and railroads. In the railroad, we're going to see when we look in more detail, the immediate kind of contentions that are happening before the Civil War begins is one of the biggest issues. Because, of course, the North wants the railroad to expand in its territory, and the South wants the railroad to expand in its. Because they're going to eventually build a railroad east to west, part of Manifest Destiny. All right? Okay. Here's an idea. 1860. Look at those railroads. How many railroads do you have in Costa Rica today? Two. 2014. Right?
what do we only use? Well, yeah, yes.
But we don't use railroads as much as we used to.
Why is that?
Because we don't have them.
No, because
We don't use them because we don't have them. That's a
no,
good
but
reason.
they are there and they could be used, but I mean, we
Because
don't
they
use
closed
more
them.
like
Yeah, they're not
road,
safe.
the roads and
They close them because they're not safe.
Well, it's kind of hard.
No,
because
no,
of all
it
the
was not
mountains,
because-
So they get
was a
also they get
business.
cracked very easily when we have
Repressive.
earthquakes. So I think
Close
it's
it.
fixed.
So it's maybe not economically viable because of the mountains and the investment's not there.
No.
Because
And
they
the
can
lack-
build the
and
railroads
the
through
lack of
mountains.
our money. We
It is
lack-
viable, but it was closed in 1998, if I'm not mistaken,
Okay.
by a business that says
Are you talking about Costa Rica or the States?
We're talking about, we're looking at the states and the development of transportation. Right? And we're comparing to Costa Rica because these are railroads in the United States
Right.
in 1860. It's quite extensive. If you look at it now, it's even more extensive. Okay, versus Costa Rica today. I mean, these are arteries of commerce. You understand what I mean by arteries of commerce?
Yes.
Yes.
What am I saying
So
essentially?
they're like
Yeah.
vital for our economy.
They're vital for economy and economic development. Right? This is what you need. I mean, we've talked about this in this class before. For me to get to Limon, if you look at it geographically, it should be like an hour and a half if there was a direct route, or as the crow flies, we say, right, straight ahead, right, or head on route.
because of all the mountains, they have to do a lot of turns.
But everything is a roundabout way, right? So it's like 4 hours to get
But
there.
it could also be the lack of engineering,
Well,
ingenuity.
but they have it. I mean, this is the thing. Costa Rica has that. I don't know what it is because I can't answer for it.
It's a government.
They say it's corruption. But we talk about, okay, Mr. Ueda, we talk about, what are they called? Like the tech industry. Costa Rica is actually a big exporter of tech. One of their biggest kind of products is microchips and processing, materials. So, how come they have the slowest internet in Latin America? Right? There's kind of there's questions and contradictions here.
They have the slowest.
No,
internet.
I'm joking, but it's slow.
Even
It's one.
Honduras goes faster.
It's slower than Guatemala. I mean, I think it's the slowest in Central America. So there are questions that we can't answer necessarily. But this, in order to develop as an industrial powerhouse, what I'm getting at here is you need these arteries of commerce. Whether, it started out with canals, 1825 to 1860. Then the innovation of the steam engine changes it into railroads and steamboats, okay? But if you want to connect the country or connect your world and be able to move products and move people efficiently, right? You have to have this. Here, just look at this. Look at how much the railroad industry goes from 1840 to 1860. These are miles of track. By 1860, there's 30,000 miles of track, right? That's in 20 years, down from what? 3,000 miles of track becomes 30.
Equals everything, 10 years.
Yeah, but it's going to improve everything. Industry's going to grow. The economy overall is going to grow because you can move everything cheaper. Where's most of this revolution taking place, though?
In the
Yeah.
in the Northeast.
1855, another map. It's a little bit better because it kind of displays the disparity between the regions. But most of the railroads are concentrated in the Northeast. Okay?
What's the junction?
Junctions like a crossroads, like roads. Okay? But all this stuff together, guys, it's called the transportation revolution. Right? This allows the United States to kind of expand at a very massive rate from east to west.
Yes.
Right? Building canals, then using the extensive river network we have. Okay? And then building, of course, railroads. And they're going to spur in other industries. Because in order to power steam engines, you need what? Coal. So the coal industry is going to become one of the most powerful industries in the world. This is pre-oil, guys. This is before the petroleum industry exists. So coal actually is going to be kind of the lifeblood of the world economy at this time. Right? Oil is not going to become a prominent industry until the end of the 1800s. Right? So all of this stuff's interconnected. Now, on to Industrial Revolution. Well, we're still in the Industrial Revolution, but moving away from transportation. How did the Industrial Revolution change the economy and way of life? Yeah.
People moved from rural areas into the cities, crowded places where they found jobs, and they became crime went
Crime increased.
Crime increase as well as overpopulation.
Overpopulation.
And contamination, pollution.
Contamination, pollution. So there's a lot of things.
Diseases.
Huh?
Diseases.
Diseases. We're going to talk about all those things. But the most essential understanding of Industrial Revolution you need to know, switching from hand, to machine, it changes everything. And one could very well argue life gets worse for the majority of people. I'd rather work on a farm at my own pace, maybe building a pair of shoes, being a cobbler or something, than going to a factory, working 12, 13, 14-hour days, right? In pollution, essentially, breathing in all these toxins, working with chemicals. I mean, this is what's going to happen. Here's the old by hand way, here's the machine way, right? In a lot of ways, life's going to get worse for people during the Industrial Revolution. Okay? I mean, just look at this. What do we see here? There's a lot of words. Are you familiar with them all? Can you comment on any of them? So immigration. How is the Industrial Revolution going to affect immigration?
People started moving to the zones or the cities, which the industry was even more developed.
Yeah, it's gonna cause a mass influx of immigrants to the United States because of the economic opportunity that it provides. Okay, even though we could say life gets worse for a lot of people, for those who are shrewd and have business acumen or have money, capital we call it, to invest, right, to start businesses, fortunes are going to be made. The greatest fortunes of all time, actually. We'll get to them when we look at the Gilded Age, the late 1800s, early 1900s. People like John D. Rockefeller, Cornelius Vanderbilt, Andrew Carnegie. These men were actually the richest people of all time. They might have less money than Carlos Slim, Bill Gates, and Mark Zuckerberg now. But if you look at the amount of money they had, and what the value of money actually was and inflation, they were much wealthier than these guys, these .com guys.